Hello and welcome to a new video. It's me, Martin, and today we're going to be looking at 10 ways to get your students speaking online. You may face particular challenges where students are reluctant to speak, students are shy, or they're not used to speaking online. Now, the reason we try and get our students to speak is because the best way to remember language and the best way to utilize language is by using it. And the more the teacher is speaking, the less opportunity there is for the students to speak. So when it comes down to any sort of course that you're doing, you may come across student talking time and teacher talking time. Good teachers try and reduce their teacher talking time and increase their student talking time. Anyhow, let's look at 10 ideas to get your students speaking and communicating in English online, and let's start with our first idea. This idea is nothing new, and it's something which is fairly common, and the best way to teach a language is through topics or themes. If you're going to be teaching about sports, then it makes sense to have questions, discussion questions, speaking questions about sports. There are a range of different websites available, or you could use ChatGPT or AI to come up with discussion questions about a particular topic. All you have to do is put in ChatGPT, give me 10 discussion questions for intermediate students of English about sports, and it will come up and generate 10 questions. What I do recommend is looking at the questions, seeing if you can adapt or edit these particular discussion questions for your class. The best way to generate questions for discussion is to use open questions, and these would be what, when, where, how, why. So look at these sort of questions. If you do have yes or no closed question forms, try and create them or adapt them to make them more open. It gives the opportunity for the students to give a fuller answer rather than a yes or no answer, such as, do you like eggs? Yes, no. You could change it to, why do you like or dislike eggs? It's that simple. The second activity is something that I've used in class as well as online with either individual or groups of students, and this is 20 questions. So you essentially give one student an object or a word. It best works with an object, to be honest, so it could be about a pen. All the other students in the classroom can only ask yes or no questions, so closed questions. Are you an animal? Do you live in the sea? Those sort of things. And the students have a total of 20 questions to ask. The student sitting at the front of the class can only answer yes or no. And based on the yes and no answer that's provided, the other students can take a guess of what that student is. After the 20 questions, then the student reveals who, what they are. And then the other students can have a guess. If they're correct, they can come up to the front, and then you can play the same game again. It's a great way to get students asking and answering closed questions, and it's also a great opportunity for students to review language or words or vocabulary that they've learnt in the class during the week. The third activity is essentially called Change the Question. Change the Question is exactly what it describes. So a student starts with one question, or you tell the question to one student, and it can go round the class, or it could be with one-to-one students. So you could ask, what food do you like? The student answers that question, and then that student asks you a question, and they could say, what food do you hate? You answer the question, and then you change that one word in the question again, and then they ask you another question. They could add words as well. So what famous person do you hate? And then I could answer, then I could change the question again. What famous person do you like? etc., etc. And it could evolve and change by adding, changing, and adapting. And it's a great way for students to review question forms and a great way to develop the conversation in an unpredictable yet engaging manner. The fourth activity is called describing two pictures. Essentially, you give a student or groups of students two pictures, and then they talk about the differences and the similarities between the two pictures. It's a common exam prompt, and it's a good opportunity for students to practice their speaking skills in preparation for an exam. So you could have two similar yet slightly different pictures, or two completely different pictures, and it's up to the students to see how they can connect these two pictures together and how they can describe the picture. It requires minimal preparation. All you have to do is source two pictures for your lesson and get the student to describe what's happening. It's a great, engaging and very fun activity, particularly for the younger adults or young learners that you may be teaching either online or face-to-face. The fifth activity is called show and tell. It's again something that is fairly common within the English language classroom, and you can get students to bring along an object or show an object that they want online. So I could, for example, bring along my headphones and say, these headphones I bought a couple of years ago. They're Bluetooth, they're really good, and I've used them every single day. They don't fail, they're good sound quality, and I use these for when I teach English online and that sort of thing. You could get the students to do the same. They could describe whatever object they feel is important for them, or an object that they feel that they want to share with the class. The sixth speaking activity is online story cubes. Now, I've used story cubes, physical story cubes, before in a range of lessons, and more recently I've used online story cubes for online teaching. But you could either use the physical cubes or you could use the online. But for this activity, let's refer to the online. If you're teaching online, or if you're in a class, they can access the online cubes with their smartphone or iPad. So essentially, the students roll the cubes, and they have to come up with a story with these 6 or 9 cubes with the pictures that are shown. If you teach one-to-one, you have that interaction with the student asking you questions about, okay, what's this picture? And then, you could get them to think about a story or to tell the story using the 3-stage narrative, the introduction to the character, the sort of challenge or difficulty that they face, and then the resolution at the end. That's the basics to a particular story, but I'm not going to go over that. If you have a group of students and they're either working in 2s or 3s, you can then get each group to share their story to the rest of the class, and the class can vote on which story they preferred most or which story they found most engaging. The 7th speaking activity is fairly simple, and it's called Taboo. Again, it's a very popular activity in the English language classroom, and for students, if you're teaching in a group environment, then you get one student to sit at the front of the class and you show them a particular word, and below that keyword are certain words that they cannot say when describing that word. I'll show you a picture of it. It gives the opportunity for that student to try and become a lot more creative with the language they're producing, and then the other students have to try and guess what the key word is based on the explanation. And if one student guesses correctly, they get 1 point, and the person presenting or trying to describe that word gets 1 point. The 8th speaking activity is called Sell Me the Product. So in this, as a teacher, you could organise the student to sell a particular product or invention and you could give that student the product, or an image of the product or invention, and the student then has to try and plan, okay, what's unique about it? How will I sell this particular product or invention? And it's a great way for students to develop that confidence to describe the product that they're referring to. It could be as simple as my little cup of coffee here. And so for this cup of coffee, you could say, it's a great cup, it's green, it holds hot liquid inside it, and it doesn't lose its heat, it's great thermal capacity, etc., etc. If the student is really engaged, they get to present a particular product, object, invention. They don't need to bring that product, invention, or what have you into class. They could just share the image on a overhead projector or whatever, and it's a wonderful opportunity for students to have the space to speak and present to either groups of students or just to the teacher. The 9th speaking activity, something that I've really enjoyed doing over the years, is ranking. In terms of any topic that you do, you could say sports, for example, and you could have a list of 10 different sports that students are aware of. But to make it more communicative, rather than just having sports and then talking about sports that they like or dislike or whatever, you could get students to put it in ranking from the most interesting to the least interesting, and then it becomes more personal. So it's great to do this either with individual students or groups of students, and if you're doing it individually with one student, they try and organise the sports in order of preference, and then you could do it as a teacher, and then you could share either the similarities or the differences. If it's groups of students do it by themselves first of all, and then they get paired up and then into large groups and large groups. It's a useful activity because it allows students to generate more language about comparatives or superlatives and reasoning. What is a balloon debate? You have a balloon in the sky and it's slowly losing altitude over crocodile-infested waters. So the only way to survive is by throwing certain people off the balloon, as cruel as it sounds. For me, I find it easier to have maybe 10 objects or people, and they have to decide on 5 that are going to survive and 5 that they'll remove, and the reasons why. Again, this activity gets students to debate together if it's group activity, and allows them the opportunity to provide reasoned, logical answers for the debate. If it's an individual student, they determine who they're going to throw off the balloon, and then finally they explain to you the reasons why. It's an incredibly engaging activity, something that the students really enjoy, and something that I definitely recommend when it comes down to either a class environment with groups of students or individually online. Those are my 10 recommended activities for trying to promote and prompt students to speak in English. If you have any particular ideas that I've not included in today's video, feel free to comment below and let me know what sort of activities that you would recommend in an online environment as well as within a class environment. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, hit that like button. If you haven't subscribed, if you're 90% of the viewers that aren't subscribed to my channel, hit the subscribe button. We're getting towards 17,000 people now, which is great. I'm hoping to get to 20,000 soon. I'm also holding a poll, and I did hold a poll about this episode, and I think I had about nearly 30 people that decided to vote, and this was a topic that most people voted for. So keep an eye on the community wall, where I'll be posting up more opportunities where you decide on the particular episode for next week. In the meantime, have a wonderful week, and thank you so much for watching. Take care, stay safe, and happy teaching. Bye bye.